Hi, so welcome to part one of the Procrastination series, where me, Jane, and
me, Dylan,
are going to be talking to you about what you can do to help yourself identify procrastination and stop it in its tracks. The focus today is going to be on what kind of procrastination, Dylan?
It's really kind of procrastination linked to being unfulfilled or unhappy with a job that you're doing or an element of your life that you're unhappy about. So I guess relating it to my own experiences, in the past I've done jobs where I haven't been fully engaged with them, and I've noticed that it's in those situations that I tend to procrastinate more.
Yeah. So we've come to realise in our work with clients and also just reflecting on our own lives that when we are really engaged and really lit up by something and really want to be there doing the thing in whatever environment and with whatever people, we're all in and we don't have any issues around procrastination. However, procrastination shows up in many different shapes and forms, but the one we want to focus on is when it comes in almost as an internal sort of indicator that something's off track and needs to be readjusted in your life. So it might be, for example, that you're in the right industry, but the wrong role.
Yeah, and that's happened to me before. So I've worked in an industry which was sport, which I'm quite passionate about. But the actual skills that I was using on a day-to-day basis weren't my best skills. And I was trying to fit myself into a role in an industry that I wanted to be in, but doing a role that were using skills that somehow I had kind of used before in previous jobs, but they weren't necessarily my best skills, and that is quite difficult. So very quickly into that job I realized that I wasn't so focused, I wasn't so motivated, and my procrastination levels went significantly up, and I became much better at procrastinating than the actual job. And I'm still very good at procrastinating, but...
And the thing with procrastination, as you found in particular, is it's not just the fact that you're not getting the job in front of you done that's the problem, although that isn't great, right? Because sometimes people don't even know you're procrastinating because you actually pull out all the stops at the last minute and you do actually end up delivering whatever the outcome is.
Yeah, and then that's linked into what I think you were going to go into, which was the kind of guilt and the kind of inner turmoil about the procrastination. It's kind of like in that situation for me, it was a very sort of vicious cycle of not being motivated to do the work because I'm not engaged and I don't feel like I'm very good at the job, and then procrastinating, wasting some time there, and then feeling guilty about wasting that time and having nothing to show for that time, and then beating myself up about, oh, I'm not good at the job, I'm always procrastinating, and it was kind of just perpetually going round. And you know, it can manifest itself in not just stress, but for me it was in psoriasis and just feeling a bit down. And I hadn't really at that point, and this is going back almost 10 years, I hadn't really at that point identified that the procrastination was a warning sign that I wasn't doing the right job.
Yes. And when you don't identify that, what can happen is you do recognise that something's not right in the job. You get to the stage where you just don't want to be there anymore. And you end up changing jobs, which can have like a short-term benefit of some kind of change of scene.
Yeah.
But then if you're still doing a role that essentially 90% of the role doesn't fit you and doesn't bring out your greatest talents and strengths, then for 90% of the time you're miserable and procrastinating.
Exactly. You can, and I think that was what I was bound to. I was doing that job in an industry that I was interested in, but I wanted to change, so I changed. But then I just went into a similar job that was using similar skills based on my CV, obviously. So they were the skills that I used in that job to get another job. That was the natural progression, and the only thing I was really sort of viable to do. And within a few months of starting a new role, the old habits crept back in because I again wasn't being fulfilled, or the job wasn't nourishing me, and I wasn't using skills, and I had these kind of dormant skills now that I then started doubting whether they were actually skills or not, because I just wasn't using them.
Yeah, and the more years that go on, the more that then becomes a challenge.
Yeah, it just becomes a weight, because the kind of guilt of not doing something you love, or it doesn't even have to be something you love. I think it's just something that actually you feel satisfied with at the end of the day, and doing something that somehow I'd got myself into a job and a career almost based on something that I'd sort of fallen into and shown I could do it, whereas other people in the team weren't willing or able to do it. But that didn't necessarily mean it was my skill or my passion to do it. And then I kind of just followed that path. And it started way back when I was a kid. And I think looking back was actually one of the big impetuses for realising what was going on. It was actually you that helped me to kind of identify some things in my past that made me realise that it wasn't necessarily my own fault that I'd kind of got into this situation.
Absolutely. I think it's... any time procrastination comes up, there's always that feeling of, I think guilt inside the person of having procrastinated in the first place, and then have they done something wrong for it to get to where it got to. And one of the things I think is really important is not to be harsh on yourself, and notice if your self-talk around procrastination is pretty, like you're beating yourself up and being pretty harsh.
I used to do sort of negative self-talk, but then after sort of 20 seconds I just procrastinate and do something else.
But without joking, I think it's important to be honest about your procrastination. If you've looked at this video, then you're probably procrastinating, but that's okay. Don't beat yourself up about it. The idea of this series is to help you get to the bottom of why you're procrastinating. And so our focus in this particular episode, as we said at the beginning, is on where things have been out of whack in terms of your inner passions and what lights you up, and the role or roles that you're doing the majority of your time where you're finding that you're procrastinating. We're giving this a work focus, but it might be that you're procrastinating about other areas of your life. It could be in your home, it could be with your children, with your husband, with your partner. But for the ease of keeping this kind of focused, what I would recommend to do to help yourself move forward out of this procrastination, if you're feeling this is resonating, is to identify, first of all, are you working in an industry that actually fits who you are deep inside? Is the industry that you're in something that actually engages and inspires you still? If it isn't, then the next step is to look at what else you could take yourself into and make a change entirely. If it is in the industry that you're interested in, then what is it about that role that no longer suits you, or maybe never suited you in the first instance? Where are there skills and talents and parts of you that have been boxed up and put away somewhere for years and years and need to be dusted off and opened up again and brought back? And I typically take people back right to when they were children to help them do this, to really reconnect with the authentic parts of yourself that were there right when you were tiny, but haven't been nurtured and nourished and haven't been brought to the fore. And it doesn't really matter how old you are and what age and stage you're at in life to do this. I'm living proof. The key thing is that you do it so that the rest of your life you get to bring more enjoyment to, and you get to live with more ease and feeling of fulfillment. So you could be looking at making a complete big leap in transformation. It might just be a small nudge towards a slightly different trajectory that takes you off in a completely...
Yeah, it doesn't definitely, in my case, it doesn't have to be all or nothing either. No. It can be just, first of all, gaining the awareness of it. Mm-hmm. Secondly, being kind to yourself about it, which I wasn't being. But allowing yourself to understand that the procrastination is a symptom of something else. So, and once you own that, you actually feel a lot better about it, because I think in my instance I was fighting against something, that I was doing something that I really shouldn't have been doing, and why put yourself through that? I know with a job it's not very easy to sidestep into something else, but even within the role there may be things that you can do, or take on things and lose a few things that could start using the skills or the expertise that you have in a better, more fulfilling way.
Yeah.
And I think I kind of talked to you about it just before this, but sometimes what you're doing when you're procrastinating, the thing that you're doing, and that maybe the thing that you keep going back to when you're procrastinating, rather than looking at it as a negative thing, you could look at it as, if it's the same thing that you keep going back to, maybe it's like a little bit of a light to show you, well, I'm spending all my time actually thinking about this thing, whether it's like looking at interior design or looking at places you want to go. Maybe that actual topic is actually more aligned with your dreams and your aspirations, and starting to work and focus on that, and use that as a positive, rather than being, I'm always procrastinating about this but I can't get my work done. Maybe you should start focusing on what you're procrastinating on a lot, and that could help.
So your procrastination could be giving you clues as to other
That's the short way of saying what I said.
It's just paraphrasing. But so it could be giving you clues, not always, but sometimes it could be. And I think also times are changing, fortunately, and no longer do we need to be fixed in one particular role, doing one set thing in one particular industry. It's like the freedom and flexibility is starting to come in now for us to create careers that are more of a portfolio, and one day you might be doing one thing, another day another. So free yourself up as well to kind of break the mold, and to be brave, and to pull out the bits of you that you've neglected, that have been shut down. Kind of look back at the key stages when you were young, sort of when you were 3 years old, 5 years old, 8 years old, 12 years old, 15 years old. What patterns do you notice about the things that then used to light you up, that you loved? What aspects of it was it that you really came to life through? What were the skills and the talents that you brought into whatever you did, but didn't necessarily get the chance to polish and take forward? And explore how you might be able to bring those back for more fun and joy and ease and
fulfillment.
Yeah.